Hey y'all, my name is Angelica Rubio, State Representative for District 35 here in Las Cruces, and this is just a legislative update. I wanted to just share briefly, because it's been on my mind a lot the last 24 hours, are the fires in LA. I have a personal relationship with LA because I used to live there. Like, LA was going to be my home for a really long time before I was called back to New Mexico about 15 years ago. And although it's still the best decision that I ever made coming back to New Mexico, LA is still so much a part of like my life and who I became. Like, so much of my scrappiness comes from learning to organize in LA, and that's something that I'll always be really, really grateful for. But the reason I'm bringing up LA is because I want to talk about climate change. Part of the reason that I have been thinking about the fires in LA so much the last 24 hours is because it's providing us a preview of what's to come if we don't seriously take this issue seriously. Here in New Mexico, some of the things that I've heard as someone who has worked on climate change policy issues is that New Mexico is just too small to make a difference for the rest of the world. So why should we make that a priority? I hear it from legislators in the Southeast, especially because it's the oil patch. It's where New Mexico's revenues are, the majority of our revenues come in from the oil and gas industry in the southeastern part of the state. And so you have legislators there who are clear about their motives that we have to extract as much as possible, because if we don't, then New Mexico in general will our economy will collapse. That is the fear mongering that happens time and time again at the legislature. What's sad about this whole thing, in addition to that, is that we are a trifecta in New Mexico, and that means the House of Representatives is a majority Democrats, the Senate is majority Democrats, and our governor is a Democrat. But every single legislator, except for a few, take oil and gas money. There are Democrats in our legislature who are committed to pursuing this policy of not addressing climate as rapidly as we should, because folks are more concerned about our economic future. I don't blame them. I get that people's livelihoods are so important and that people need jobs, people need schools, people need all of the different types of infrastructure that's necessary for us to have a livelihood here in our state. But what's frustrating as a legislator is that as we see places like LA burn down, and places like in northern New Mexico burn down a couple years ago, and then last year here in Ruidoso, is that we're not learning from these experiences. Like, we are doubling down on the fact that we need to extract these resources from the ground, pollute our air in order for our people to live. To me, that is such a lack of vision. It is such a lack of imagination. And I think it has become the most frustrating part of serving in the legislature, is that we have Democrats in the majority in the House and the Senate and in the governor's office who are unwilling to be leaders in this country on how we handle climate change and how we can be a beacon for the entire world. I don't want to fall into the midst of that it's too late for us, even though it feels like it's too late, because shit's bad, y'all. And I think that as we head into this session, and knowing all that we know so far about climate, what it's currently doing to our planet, and what it's doing to places that we love, like LA, like northern New Mexico, like Ruidoso, like, there is a correlation between climate and capitalism, and why capitalism is so bad. And we have to do something about that. And I know that it's a conversation that I've heard time and time again, especially from people who are just like, people have to work, people have to live, people have to survive. And to talk about dismantling an entire system is just so overwhelming and so so far off, removed from people's realities. I get that. And we can't let these like fucking billionaires get away with it, you know? They're the ones that are destroying our planet. And we just can't let them get away with that. And we can't let our policymakers, our governments, essentially defer to them anymore. Like, we have a responsibility as a New Mexico legislature come January 21st, when the session starts, to like do something about this. And I'm wondering what kind of courage your legislators will have to be bold enough to do that. Will the governor be bold enough to do anything? You know, like, I don't know. So I'm sorry if this was a bit of a downer. It's been kind of a downer of a 24 hours, but there's just a lot to think about. And I think that when we're thinking about what's happening with climate, there has to be a correlation with you have to be able to think about it in terms of capitalism, y'all. Like, capitalism is killing us, like, both morally, physically, literally, like all of the things. Like, capitalism is killing us, and we have to grow that class consciousness to understand that we have power, and we can do something about it. So peace out, y'all. Talk soon.